Hey, Young World, OJ here. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing things a little bit different. I am running a little behind. I don't have my drawing done. And instead of doing a time lapse of something I did out in the streets, today I'm going to be drawing real time in my studio and talking while drawing. Anyways, I went to draw essentially from an overlook spot on the bridge on Randolph Street over 9094, kind of overlooking a corner of the skyline downtown. You obviously can see Sears Tower there, top left, but a handful of other buildings overlooking 9094. This is always hectic. It's always packed down here. It's always traffic. Even lately, when I've been down there late at night, around midnight or so, still there's a lot of traffic and whatnot. Anyways, today we are working on a nice watercolor paper. I'm going to be, like I said, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to be exploring some materials. This is some Japanese drawing ink. My buddy Frank gave this to me. Shout out to my big bro, Frank, Big Black. Anyways, I'm going to be testing this out. If you can read this, holler at me or let me know in the comments what it actually means. Mook Jung is what it says above it in the top here, but I'm going to test it out. I also don't know how old this is, so it's going to be a fun little experiment. And then normally, this is normally what I would consider to be an acrylic paintbrush, but it's, the angle on it, I call this the mini blade. I have another version of this that's much bigger that I use for painting murals or paintings or pretty much anything. But anyways, today I have a milk jug cap here with some ink in it. And, I would love to, today is going to kind of be about speed. And so I would love to keep this drawing 10 minutes or less. I'm going to be on a little timer. And actually, before I get started, I'm going to tape my drawing down. I usually do this anyways. It just helps, keep your drawing in one place or like taping it down to a drawing board. I know you've seen me do this in pretty much all of the other drawing videos that I've released. This isn't necessarily essential for drawing, but for making these videos, I want the drawing to stay in the same place so you can see what I'm doing, Anyways, I figure we should jump right in. I'm going to try to draw for 10 minutes. I might be a little under, I might be a little over, but I'm going to put the timer on just to judge it. And, like I said, today is it's a test. And so using this ink, using this brush, I don't know how they're going to work together. I don't know how the ink is going to react to this paper. It might be absorbed. It might not. I'm hoping it's going to be at least a little bit absorbed. But anyways, I think we should probably just go ahead and get right in, huh? So I always start with like an establishing line in the middle, which today is going to be something like these bridges. Ooh, I like that line already. I was using a much bigger brush that was meant for ink. But it really wasn't, it was just too big. It was holding the ink. It was distributing it on the paper well, but it was too big for the size of the paper. Some establishing lines here. Bridge, highway, bridge, exit ramp. Well, part of an exit ramp. I'm going to distinguish that in here. This ink, obviously if you use a lot of it, it's going to be very dark. But if you don't, it will kind of look a little gray. Sorry, I spaced out there for a second. Sometimes when I'm drawing, I really concentrate and I stop talking. I'm gonna bulk in a couple of these areas. I'm gonna fill that in. I'm gonna actually lay out a bit of the skyline first. Have some other sub buildings in here that I'm gonna just block out really fast. Try to block out the rest of the image really fast. I'm already at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Sorry, I stopped talking. We got 4 nearly identical buildings side by side here. I was just trying to knock them out. They're in the foreground too. You can see obviously how fast I could fill in some of these areas. The turn of the brush. That's part of the experiment. You know, this drawing still might not be amazing, but it might be pretty cool too. The ink kind of works like watercolor, a bit like watercolor. The way that it dries, the way that it's laying, when it dries, determine how it looks. You know, if you were to take a napkin in here and dry some of it off, it would have a whole nother look. It feels nice to just be able to broad strokes fill in some of these areas. I'm going to actually really quickly come in here and fill in this whole highway, make it black. I'm going to keep all of my strokes starting up here under the bridge, up here, and feathering out. And so there's going to be much more ink up there. I am going to kind of rework this a bit in a second. It's not the best thing you should do, but this back here is going to become very dark. And as it fades, as it comes more forwards, more towards us in space, it's going to basically fade out. And so going back in, I don't want to ruin this, but we just need a little more juice down there. Let's just go ahead and run it off the edge of the paper. I'm going to need a little more ink yet. Have some subtle textures. Even this, you see how thick the ink is up here, and even still, the thinner it is near the bottom, the more it dries, the more it's going to kind of have a transparent ghosting effect as compared to like this area up here. Thick, dark areas. Where are we at on time? 5:55, almost 6 minutes in. I'm going to add a few more small buildings. Back here. And see, that's essentially a puddle. A puddle of black ink. So we'll see how that dries. Can't forget Sears Tower in the background there. Even this brush is a little bit too big for some of the smaller details, but I think it's going to turn out kind of cool blocking these shapes in and them being relatively rough. Sears in the back. There's a lot of stuff in the middle ground that's kind of like trees and whatnot, this area here. So I'm just going to kind of rough that in real quick. And this, this is not necessarily like a clean man-made thing. It's going to have a little bit of rough edges. Today's drawing is about speed, though, and experimenting. Something that I always stress in anything that I do creatively, or anytime I talk to any younger artists or artists just that are a little stuck, fearless creative exploration. It's like there's no pressure on this. This drawing isn't for anything. This is just for fun. Working in a few more dark areas. We're at 9 minutes and 14 seconds. Fill in a few more of these, give it some color balance. I'm starting to run out of ink too. I could refill, but we're pretty much in our last 30 seconds if I'm trying to stay within 10 minutes. This back here, we're going to give a little. Darken that up, and we just hit 10 minutes. Should I stop here? Should I keep going? Should I finish it out? That 10 minutes was just a rough thing, and so I'm going to come in, add a few more details just to help the piece out a little bit. Very loose. Interesting, huh? Last couple of darks. I'm at 10, 11 minutes. Sorry, I thought that was in the frame of the image there. Add a few smaller details. Make it appear like some things are actually in the distance. You see how much lighter this ink is drying though, right? You see like this is all still wet up here. This is drying, but look at how much lighter it is. Actually, we're going to do a lot of the same. We're going to layer up in these trees in here. Make it feel a little thicker. The Blade Mini. The big blade is about 1 inch thick. This is about 1/4 of an inch. It's a bit of the essence of this drawing. There's some darks in here as well. Get my phone out of there. I'm already well over the time limit. I'm going to go ahead and sign it. Is this drawing necessarily a victory? Not necessarily. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and sign it with a normal pen today. Is this an amazing drawing? Not necessarily. Was it fun? Yeah, for sure it was. It's an experiment. Fearless creative exploration. 2024. I appreciate you watching per usual. I'm OJ, Juice Loops Live. I'm going to be coming with a whole variety of videos, really. This is just like kind of a test. There's going to be a lot of other things. Anyways, I do want to stay disciplined to make sure that I keep drawing coming for you, or some type of video coming for you every Thursday, and just keep that YouTube, rolling. It even is really nice for me personally to look back at some of the early videos, which were not even 2 years ago, and just see, some of the growth, and even really just remembering those moments. But anyways, today's drawing was an exercise, an experiment, if you will. Is it successful? It was interesting. So yeah, I will call it a success. This was a spot that I was going to draw downtown. Flip back over real quick to inspiration. Finished product. Anyways, I thank you for watching. As always, come and find me next week. I'm OJ. I'll see you then. Bye. Can we just be good to each other? I know there's a lot going on in the world, the election and all that, but like everybody just needs a little bit of love, even if they're your mortal enemy. Like, just be good to people.